Boom, 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 ba-da-dum, 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 boom, boom, ba-da-dum. They snuck into the kitchen when no one was looking.
Look out, Mama, it's Danger Man cooking.
Hey, and welcome to Danger Man Cooking. My name's Gary Schmidt.
And I'm Stephen Schlissel. Today we will be headed to Someday Farm in East Dorset, Vermont, where they raise chickens. Then we're going to find the perfect knife to cut one up.
And then Stephen's going to take us to Merck Forest and Farmland Center in Rupert and examine how they make maple syrup. And we'll be using that on our blueberry crepes today.
But first, off to East Dorset to see what they're doing up at Someday Farm.
Okay. All right, well, here we are at Someday Farms with Matt Proft. And Matt, you are the owner.
Along with my wife, Scout.
Scout,
Yeah, we
okay.
are owner-operators, I guess you would call us.
All right.
We've been here for 25 plus years, and we're currently standing in one of our newest structures. Farm fresh eggs from spoiled rotten hens. So says Anders here. We've got probably, I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 layers here. A variety of breeds, but primarily Rhode Island red crosses, which are the workhorse of the brown egg layers. And we've got two age groups here. Birds that are just starting to lay this past month or so, and birds that are a year older. And we do that so we can alternate our egg production throughout the seasons. I'm going to just open up the door and let them out before I try to go in, because they don't wait for me often. And it looks like they're a little surprised that they're getting let out so early in the afternoon. They're very, very civil today, but that could change. And we do, as you can hear as well, have a few roosters in here.
So you also do turkeys, is that correct, for Thanksgiving?
Turkeys are one of our main crops.
Yeah.
We raise about 500 turkeys for Thanksgiving market. This product here on the floor is almost as valuable as the eggs coming off because of our vegetable operation. All the birdhouses provide us with tremendous nutrient value for our composting operation.
All right.
This is our certified, state-certified processing room. Our AstroTurf here is our cleaning platform where we run eggs through. Every week we'll come in and wash a batch of eggs. We'll pull out defects, discolorations in shell. We'll send those eggs to the food shelf. And,
Oh, really?
we're sending probably 30 to 45 dozen a week.
Wow. All right, so we're in another coop.
Another coop, a
all right.
greenhouse coop.
And so we have ducks and...
We have some of our broilers, are the last of a group of broilers here that are headed to the market in another week or so. And then we've got in this spaceship-looking device is what we're calling a brooder. And we're starting another group of broilers, which these birds inside here are a little over a week old. So all the equipment's set to go, and we've got our birds here, and we're going to take them and bleed them out, essentially. That's the way that we kill them, slaughter them. They're hanging in cones upside down, confined to some extent, and then we're cutting their carotid arteries to bleed out the bird completely, so we have a clean meat product. And from there, after about 2 minutes of hanging and draining the blood, they're going into the scalder here. And the scalder is about 140 degrees, and it's set on a timer where this tray will rotate for 60 seconds in that water, and we'll take the follicle of the feather and loosen it so it can then be pulled off the bird very easily without any tearing of the skin. And by doing that at 140 temperature for 60 seconds, it's a done deal. We could go hotter for less time, cooler for a longer time, but that seems to be the accepted standard in the poultry processing. And then rather than taking the feathers off of the birds with our hands, that's where the plucker comes in. The goal here is to keep all the internal organs whole so we don't have any contamination of the product by fecal material.
And those organs are getting recycled into compost?
They're all going into the compost and back into the vegetable operation. And by taking them off feed for the overnight, before this process, then we're sure to have a nice empty digestive system. There's a supermarket ready bird, except it's still body temperature, so the important thing is that we chill this bird down as quickly as possible. And that happens in straight water until we're done with the process, and then they go on to ice and water. This is our smoker, where I am smoking turkey breast as well as our fresh chickens. It's a applewood smoke that we use from some of the apple trees around here and provide us with the wood chips that we need to generate the smoke to impart the flavor on the birds. It's a commercial oven, if you will. When you're smoking poultry, it's actually something that needs to be cooked in the process. It's not something that can stay just raw as well. The smoke is drawn in through the box here once I light this and blown down from up above onto the bird and circulates in here, and then I have a vent going out, but my goal is to keep as much smoke in there as possible to give that flavor to the bird. There's nothing better than a bird right out of the smoker, which was dinner last night.
Okay, we're back from Someday Farm, and as you can tell, they take meticulous care of their chickens. And this is what we have here from them. And I'm going to show you how to take one apart. But first, Stephen's going to get us a knife.
Yeah, Gary, I visited Reed's Slattery over at Vermont Kitchen Supplies, and we have a cut of that to show of what Reed spoke about.
Okay.
Here we are today at Vermont Kitchen Supply. I'm here with Reed Slattery, our go-to guy when it comes to finding things for our Danger Men Cooking Kitchen. Reed Gary has charged me to find a boning knife where he's taking apart a whole chicken, and if you would tell the folks at home what they might be looking for when they go purchase a boning knife.
Boning knife, by definition, is primarily used to separate meat from a bone. It's a knife that encompasses a wide family of styles. And the blade is usually 5 to 6 inches in length. It's a thin blade, and most importantly, it's a very sharp blade. For smaller cuts of meat, I would probably recommend a knife that has a bit of flex to it, so you're able to work around small bones, small areas, still be able to preserve the meat that you're cutting, and at the same time get as much of that meat off the bone as possible. For larger cuts of meat, I would probably recommend a boning knife with a stiff blade. Therefore, you have more strength in your hand. You're able to insert the blade where you would like. You will not hurt yourself, and you will not hurt the cut of meat. Boning knives usually have a variety of different handles. We have a wood handle. We have a soft grip plastic handle. We have a poly handle and a wood composite handle. They come forged and they come stamped. They will all do the job. A lot of restaurants like to use Dexter Russell knives. They do the job very well. They are very sanitary and they're easy to sharpen. Some people like carbon steel, which by nature is a great composite to use in a knife, easy to keep sharp. and households also like to use forge knives. All will do the job. The key point here is to keep them sharp at all times and have a firm grip. You can sharpen them on a stone, a steel, a hand sharpener, but do that on a daily basis and you'll have a rewarding experience.
Welcome back. And right now we're going to go to the chicken and I'm going to show you how to take it apart. There are many advantages to learn how to do this. Some people may think it's complicated, but it's not. So you just have to take your time and watch what happens and we'll see how we do. The first thing we're going to do is make an incision on the skin by the leg. You pull that apart. Now, you're going to open up the leg until you see the bone right here. And you're going to then take the knife and cut along that bone. And there we have it. We can do the same thing to the other side. Make the incision through the skin. Going to then take the leg and thigh, break it up open till you see the bone, and then take the knife, cut around that, and there we have it. This is the thigh and the leg. Now, the next step, we have two wings. We're going to now cut this in such a way that we have a very nice portion for a meal with this. So we're going to cut a little bit of the breast down the back, open that up, and again, the same thing. We're going to open it up the wing till we see the bone, and then we're going to trim that off. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. A slice down the back side of the breast, open up the chicken, so you see the bone, cut that, and there we have a nice wing with a piece of breast meat, which is ample for a portion on a meal. Now, we have what's left on the carcass, the breast, and the breastbone runs right down the middle. And what we're going to do is take the knife and cut down the top of the breastbone until you feel that you've cut into the bone. And we're going to then take the edge of the knife and skim the bone until you just peel away that meat. The idea of any kind of meat trimming is to come away with as much meat as possible, leaving as little meat on the bone as possible. And here we have a nice breast. Now we do the same thing to the other side. Take the knife, cut down one side of the breastbone, open that up a little bit, and then we're just going to take the knife and glide it down along the carcass. So now the next step is to take the leg apart from the thigh. And like I said before, we're going to wiggle the thigh and see if we can feel where that joint is. And then we're going to cut down right where we feel the bone is. And they come right apart. Let's do that one more time. The other thigh and leg, we feel where the joint is coming together. Take the knife, cut right down, and there we have it. So now we have a lot of meat here out of one chicken. If you're talking about for two people, this is enough food for probably about 4 meals. And the next way to extend that and make some more food is to make a stock. We're going to take the carcass of this chicken, place it in a pot of water. This water is on simmering, and then we're going to add some vegetables to it. And what I do at home is I keep scraps of vegetables in my freezer. So now I have some frozen ends of herbs, a little celery, some garlic scraps, some skins, mushroom stems, stems from zucchini, stems from squash, carrots, and even a little stem from broccolini. So you place that into the pot with the carcass, and then the next step is to add some herbs. So we have here some bay leaves. Probably 2 or 3 bay leaves is a good amount. We have some thyme. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of thyme, some black pepper, whole black pepper, another tablespoon of that, and then finally some salt. And we're going to put that in maybe about 2 tablespoons. And the process here is just to let the chicken simmer in the pot. And once you feel that it comes to a close in cooking, you can use this for soups, sauces, many, many things you can use this for. So that's it for the chicken. And now we're going to move on to making chicken marsala. Okay, now for some chicken marsala. And we're going to use the breast meat that we took off of the chicken. Now, as you can see here, when you get a breast of chicken, that normally it is a little uneven. One end is thicker than the other. And so that's going to cause some problems in the cooking process. So we want to make sure we remedy that first. And there are a couple of different ways you could do that. If you had a mallet, you could pound out the chicken and flatten it out. But I choose today just to fillet the chicken open and even it out with the knife. So now here we have equal size of chicken. And what we're going to do now is take a little salt and pepper, season the chicken, and take a little bit of oregano. I would say this is going to be about a teaspoon at the most, half a teaspoon. And we're going to take the chicken breast and dredge it in flour. And now we're going to take a little olive oil and place the chicken breast into the oil. Now, by dredging the chicken breast with flour, is going to create a nice little coloring on the chicken. And once we place it in the pan, I'm going to place in also next to it some garlic, about a tablespoon of garlic, about a tablespoon of diced onion, and then some fresh mushrooms. And all of these vegetables are courtesy of Someday Farm. Now what we're going to do here is create what I call one pan plan. We're going to have the main entree, and then we're going to create a sauce to go with the meat in the same pan. And this is not going to take very long at all. We're just stirring about the garlic, mushrooms, and onion. And now I'm going to flip over the chicken breast. And you can see how nice coloring that has. It's browned very nicely. I'm going to put just a dash more of oil in the pan. The mushrooms have absorbed that oil that we put in earlier. And everything is cooking very nicely. Now, for chicken marsala, of course, we need marsala wine. And I'm going to place in here about a quarter of a cup of wine. And now we're going to let that reduce just a little bit. The chicken is cooking nicely in with the broth from the wine. And it will take about a minute or so for this wine to reduce. And if it seems that the reduction has gone too far, that we've lost some of the moisture, we can always take a little chicken stock that we have here and place just a little bit in the pan. Chicken stock is very versatile in kitchen and cooking. You can do a lot with it. Now we have here a little side of organic brown rice, and we're going to take the chicken breast, place that next to the rice. And this Marsala wine and stock has now reduced very nicely. It's thickening up, and then we're going to now just place it over the chicken breast with the mushrooms. And there we have it. Chicken Marsala with shiitake mushrooms from Someday Farm. Thank you.
Well, Gary, that looks delicious. What's next?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to do a stir fry. I'm going to show you how to utilize the dark meat of the chicken and some nice fresh vegetables. And you got the vegetables from Someday Farm, right?
I visited their farm stand over on Route 30 the other day, and we've got a short clip of that to show you, and
all right.
You'll be ready to go in a minute.
Yeah, let's get going.
Well, hello, Stephen, and this is our farm stand. We've been here for 13 years now with Malcolm Cooper at J.K. Adams, and we grow 60 different vegetables. And we started off with greens and rhubarb and asparagus and radishes and baby leeks and scallions, and we're going to be getting into our own tomatoes soon. We have a very dear friend who raises tomatoes for us at our farm, Scooter, and we've got 200 tomatoes coming on in a couple of weeks, and peas next week, and the variety is endless. As I said, we grow 60 different varieties of vegetables. Asparagus will be heading downhill. Corn won't be coming in till beginning of July, but we've got raspberries mid-July as well. All of our own product is organic and has been for 20 some odd years. And we also have Matt's chickens, his meat chickens that he raises, and our eggs from 600 laying hens. So we keep very busy here, and we also like to encourage our children of the community to come by. We have always baby chicks with us and laying hens. We're going to be getting on with other products as well as the season goes on. We'll have our honey from our own bees in the next 2 weeks, actually. We'll be harvesting our own honey.
And you're the apiarist? Or?
I am. That's a good word, apiarist.
And I see you've got compost to sell, so that's all
we do.
Composted chicken manure with...
shredded paper from the Burr and Burton High School. It's got food waste from the Dorset School. It's got local things from dropped off by customers.
Right.
Shredded paper from their offices, and so it's and leaves. Thank you, Scooter. And leaves, and this is Scooter right here, who's in large part in charge of the plants in the greenhouses. As a specialty for myself is growing the peas and the greens.
Right.
I have a mesclun mix that has 12 different ingredients in it. And those that mesclun mix gets changed every week because I like to keep the customers guessing.
Right.
So it's and we also have endive and romaine lettuce and red salad bowl and green salad bowl. According to the different needs of the customers is why we grow 15 varieties of lettuces.
Now I stopped in and I saw you tending the fields yesterday, and you were cultivating the fields with a hoe, the old-fashioned way.
The new-fashioned way.
Rounding up, that was, the Roundup hoe.
It is. It is. We have about 4.5 acres of vegetables, and most of the work is done with hand tools.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that we compact the soil as little as possible, and then the roots will be able to penetrate better into the soil and get the nutrients they need. So very little mechanical use, and all of our, as you saw yesterday, Stephen, all of our rows are 3.5 feet wide. And our pathways are only as wide as your feet.
Yes.
So it's an incredibly intense system,
Yeah.
which is why we get so much product out of so little space.
Okay, let's get started with the stir fry. What we're going to do first is take some of the meat that we use for the chicken breast for the marsala, and we're going to cut that into small julienne strips, thin, long strips. And then we're going to utilize some of the dark meat from the thigh. So we're going to just trim off close to the bone as we can get, and trim off all the little excess fat that's on there. We don't want to have that into the meal. And do the same thing. We're going to cut julienne strips. When you're making a stir fry, you want to make sure that you have all of your materials in place before you start cooking. They call that mise en place. We want to have everything in place because stir frying is a very fast process. So now we have our chicken. We have carrots, zucchini, squash, and mushrooms. And we're going to get started with a little oil in the pan. And we're going to place the chicken into the pan. And this is on a high heat. And as I said, this is going to cook very fast. In a stir fry, you want to make sure that you get the meat cooked on both sides and have it about halfway cooked. So now we're going to flip this over. We're going to place into the pan some onions, again about a tablespoon of onion and maybe a tablespoon of garlic, maybe a touch more oil. If you see the oil starting to disappear, you can always add some more. That's looking good. Now we're going to place into the pan some mushrooms, our zucchini, yellow squash, and some nice julienne carrots. And everything here is cut to the same size, and that assures for evenness of cooking. That's starting to look good. Okay, now we're going to make this kind of on an Asian style. Now what I have here is some ginger root. And at home, I keep this in the freezer. It's an easy way to utilize it. You have a grater, and you take your ginger root and you grate it into the pan. And that gives it a nice little kick. And we have here some sesame oil, and we have some soy sauce. Now these are definitely flavor ingredients. And the one thing you want to remember about using soy sauce or sesame oil is to make sure you do not put it into a hot pan without stock. We're going to put the stock in first and then add the soy sauce and the sesame oil. If you add the soy sauce before that, it has a tendency to burn and will get a little bitter. So we're going to place in the pan a little soy sauce for color and flavor, and then at the end, finally, some sesame oil. And I would say we're putting in about maybe 3 tablespoons of soy sauce and about 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. We're going to let this cook, reduce a little bit. And after it appears to you that the chicken is cooked, you can tell by touching it. If it feels firm, it's ready to go. Then we're going to take that and place it over some nice rice, and there we have a nice stir fry. Ready to go.
So Gary, do you remember you went away in March?
Yeah, I went to Florida.
Well, I went up to Merck Forest and Farmland Center in Rupert, and I saw their whole sugaring season, and we have some footage there to show you and the people.
Okay.
Okay, we're here today at Merck Forest and Farmland Center, where I'm talking to Laura Trudeau, Education Director of the facility. Laura's going to tell us a little bit about their unique sugaring operation.
Merck Forest is different than most of your local sugar makers because we are a nonprofit, and our focus is education and demonstration of the most innovative, sustainable methods to manage forest and farmland. So we take special consideration into making sure that we're promoting the health of our forests. That's number one, as well as producing a good product for our consumers. And one of the main ways that we ensure that is by adhering to the Northeastern Organic Farmers Association rules so that we are NOFA certified. And one of their main things is how we tap trees, which we see right here. You might know this in some areas. You'll see sugar makers who have got taps right next to old taps and that kind of thing, and that's really detrimental towards your tree. So we adhere to those NOFA standards, which mean that we have to make sure our tap is placed far away enough from other taps that we're not bleeding away the life of the tree and creating a dead spot. And that's really important to having healthy, good trees and keeping this forest going for a long time. I have heard though, from our sugar maker and other sugar makers I've met, that we have a very healthy woods. You see a lot of people who just bleed their trees to death. And so when we come out and tap, which is about mid-February, we just did that, we'll tap these trees and we put in these little plugs right here, and these are the tap plugs, and these will take the sap that comes through down this drop line, and this will connect to our lateral line. And these are kind of like the feeder branches that go into our main lines, which are the large black ones that people will see as they walk down our trails. And those conduct the sap all the way up to the sugar house, which is approximately a mile from here. So there's a huge network of these lines going all over the place around the Merck Forest. And New England is unique, and that's the only place in the world where you can make maple syrup. And the only season we can make it is in the early spring because we need that temperature range of below freezing at night. So typically 20s is perfect, and then 40s during the day. So the tree will freeze up at night, and then the sun will come out, it'll be 40 degrees, kind of like it is right now, and it'll warm up, and then it'll start flowing through and come right through, and we'll take it off on these, and the tree's making itself grow, and we're taking a little bit of that benefit for ourselves. We usually set a date for tapping. We want that to be before we'll have a run, which is a day when we're having good sap flow. And there'll be some days during the year when we won't have a run, even during the month of March when we are typically having runs. For example, this weekend we had this rainy, sort of strange weather, and it was just cloudy, and we didn't have a run. Or if it's a day, if it was warmer today and we didn't go below freezing in the night, then we would also not have a run. So you really need that specific 20 to 40 range. We're having our maple sugaring celebration March 27th and 28th. Maple sugar houses all over Vermont are having their open house weekend. And at Merck we do a big celebration. We'll see our sugar house. It's a pretty new building. We just had construction done this year to outfit it even more to be a great event space. We have our whole upper deck. We're going to have pancake breakfast in there. We're also going to have educational demonstrations, some historical exhibits of the history of maple sugar making, as well as farm tours and wagon rides with horses. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're actually boiling our sap that's been concentrated from its original form down to about 6% sugar, as opposed to the 2% it comes in straight from the tree on. And we're just basically boiling away as much water as we can to get it down to what we want, which is about 87% sugar. And then at that point, we're going to start drawing it off, which is what we'll do right here. And we'll run it through, and we're going to filter it and then check it for its grade. Yeah, so what Alex is doing is about every 5 to 7 minutes, we have to throw in more wood to keep it up to the right temperature, because we need to keep it boiling consistently. So it's a hard job, but we got to keep throwing in more and more wood so that we're consistently firing, is what it's called. And so we do one side at a time. So Alex will throw as much wood as he can fit in this side, and then close it up, and then set the timer, and 5 minutes later he'll do the other side. So it's a pretty constant hard work. All right, so what we're doing here is we're actually down to the part where we're actually finally boiling away the concentrated sap to make our syrup. And this front part here is what we call the front pan, as it's in the front. And then this back area here is the back pan. So as our sap comes in, even before it gets to our main boiling area right here in the front pan, it'll go through a couple of compartments in there where it's going to be sort of preheated and pre-boiled down to a more concentrated level, so that it'll be maybe halfway to becoming finished syrup before it gets into here, which really cuts down on time and makes it a lot more convenient for us. So what we're looking at here, up there is a dairy tanker actually, which we use sort of as our final stop for the sap when it all comes in. So as it comes in that big black mainline tube, it goes through pretty much what looks like a sock, And that's the filter that's going to catch any sort of like thing that might have gotten in there, a bug or whatever, just any little bit before it goes into our processing. And that's also where we can stop it. So if we want to let our sap accumulate before we boil, which is what we usually do, we'll let that tanker fill up before we start drawing it into the sugar house. So what he's doing right now is just checking our concentration of sugar. And when it gets to 87, we know that we're perfect and we're ready to start drawing it totally off from the pan and into our filters for our final filter before we can it and it's ready to be sold. What he's mixing in right now will help us to remove any impurities that are in the sap that are natural to it so that we'll have a clear finished product. So the next part that he's hooking up right now is going to be our filter press, and we're going to use high pressure to push the syrup through a series of filters, and that will also help us to remove those impurities. They're just going to clog it up so that we'll end up coming out with beautiful crystal clear amber syrup.
Okay, so we're going to now make some crepes. I'm going to show you a basic recipe, and then we're going to make some blueberries with the maple syrup. For crepes, we're going to use a cup of flour, and then we're going to have 2 eggs blended into the flour, and the liquid that we use is about a cup of milk. We're going to pour half of that milk into the batter. The secret to making a crepe recipe the correct way is to make sure that the batter is very smooth. So we put half the liquid in first, stir up the flour and the eggs to make sure that the lumps are out of the flour and the batter is smooth. So there we go. And now we're going to add the rest of the milk to the batter. And a crepe, of course, is a very, very thin pancake. That can be used in desserts or savory dishes also. So for instance, today we could have made a chicken crepe if we wish. All right, so now here's our batter. It is very thin looking, but that's the right consistency. Okay, now we're going to put a little butter into the pan. And we're going to take a spoon of batter, place it into the pan all at once, and turn the pan until the batter gets spread evenly. And we're going to wait for this to dry on the top. You'll see that the batter will turn dry, and then we're going to flip it over. And it won't take long to cook on the other side, just a minute at the most, half a minute actually. And then we're going to place that on the plate. Let's do one more to see what that looks like. Again, put a little butter into the pan. And a spoon of batter is placed in the pan all at once. And then you circulate the pan around until the batter is evenly distributed. Going to let that cook for about 15 seconds until you see that the batter on the top is drying up. And when that happens, we'll flip it over. And another 15 seconds to cook on the other side. And we'll place that on this pan plate also. Okay, now we're gonna cook some blueberries to place over the crepes. And again, we're gonna put a little butter into the pan. And the fresh blueberries. For each crepe, you might want to put about a 1/4 cup of blueberries in, or however much you like. If you like blueberries, go for it. They're going to be warmed up briefly. And now for the maple syrup. And then we're going to add a little touch of cinnamon. Cinnamon acts as a flavor, of course. It also helps thicken things up. And once you see that the syrup's come to a point of boiling, we're going to place the blueberries over the crepes. And voila! We have a very nice dessert made with syrup from Merck Forest and blueberries.
So as the folks know at home, we can't finish the show without having some wine to drink with our meal today. Barbara couldn't make the show, but she gave me some notes today. First, we've got the Hugel White, which is a blend of Alsatian grapes of Pinot Gris and Gewürztraminer, which is not easy to say. It has a bit of spice that goes well with the Asian foods, and it might go very nice with our stir fry. The Reposo is a classical Valpolicella blended with Amarone Pomace, which is what's left over after squeezing the grape solids, which gives it a raisin fig-like taste that would match well the sweetness of the Marsala. That's right from the barber's mouth.
Okay, let's have a little toast.
Okay. We'll start with the red. So those at home, once again, thanks for watching.
And until next time, keep on cooking.
Say, Gary, did you hear about the chicken breast that got arrested?
No, Steve, why is that?
It ran afoul of the law.
So, did it get convicted?
Sure did. Didn't have a leg to stand on.
Well, whatever became of it?
Well, now it's all cooped up in the big pen.
Oh, well, how many chickens does it take to screw in a light bulb?
I don't know. How many, Gary?
7.
Why 7?
Well, last week I saw 6 trying to do it, and they just couldn't handle it. But yesterday I saw 7, and it went on perfectly.
Well, you ought to be Southern fried for that.
Welcome to Dangerman Cooking. My name's Gary Schmidt.
And I'm the man in black, Johnny Cash. I smell that chicken cooking. It's cooking in the pan. I haven't had my veggies since Adam was the man.
Boom 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 ba-da-dum, 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 boom boom ba-da-dum. They snuck into the kitchen when no one was looking.
Look out, Mama, it's Danger Man cooking.
Oh, no.